One of my favorite functions in Camtasia is the ability to remove a background. I work with green screens a lot, and it's something that comes in really, really handy. Now, when first somebody told me I should work with a green screen, I shied away from it. I thought this was a very complex and complicated project to take on, and I've seen movies which have been done in front of green screens, and obviously they take this to a whole nother level. But for basic videos like we're doing, like basic explainer videos and training videos, removing the green screen in the background isn't that hard. And I always thought this is such a big deal, but Camtasia makes it actually quite easy. So I'm going to take you through of how this works. In this lecture, I'm going to take you through how to remove the background, and then in the next lecture, I'll actually show you some options for adding a new background. So we're going to go back to our trusty clip-in area on the bottom here, and we had touched on this already in a previous lecture. We have the tab for the visual properties, so I'm just going to click on this. And in order to get my controls up, I actually need to click onto a media piece. So I'm going to take the clip on the bottom here on my video track that we have created, and I'm going to click on that, and I have all the information about my track right here. And as we scroll down, we come into the visual effects area, and we're going to click on remove a color. And the default color that's selected is always a green, which is a standard green, and I'm just going to show you how you can actually select the right shade of green from your screen. Because I could simply click on removing green and bring my tolerance up, and poof, just like that, everything disappears. But it's not doing a very good job because it's not picking the right shade of green. It's working with the wrong information. So I'm just going to bring this back to 0. And instead of just picking a green visually, I'm actually going to go and select color. And I want to select a color that's fairly close to my shadow here, to my shape. Because if, as you can see, I have different shades of green here, like over in this area, you can see I'm showing some wrinkles on the backdrop. And if I have trouble removing it, I could always go back to my crop tool that's located up here in the top that we have talked about before, and it could crop my image in to make it easier to remove that background. Typically it's not a problem, but it's there if I needed to. So I'm going to go with my eyedropper tool anywhere closely around my body, and I'm just going to go here and I'm just going to click. And we can see it's done a pretty good job. You might disagree. Yes, we are still seeing some green, but it's done a pretty good job at going around my silhouette. And now what we need to do is we need to bring the tolerance up. We have picked the closest shade of green we can pick, and now we're going to bring that tolerance up. And you can see as I'm moving that slider over, more and more of the green actually disappears. If I bring this back, you can see I'm getting some of my halo back. And this is something I'm often seeing when people do green screen editing. They're not getting too far into that nitty-gritty to remove that halo, and then it looks quite funny when you have a really strong halo around you. So you want to get rid of that green as much as you possibly can. So I'm just going to bring this up, and typically my magic number is just around the 30, about 28, 29, 30 is my magic number that works well for my particular setup. So I'm usually using 30 as my starting number. Sometimes I'm bringing it down to just about 29 or so. Depends a little bit on the lighting, and depends a little bit on how I'm standing on what I'm wearing. But that's a good starting point for me. Now I'm just going to bring this up a little bit more so you can see what actually happens. And you can see the more I bring this up, the more I disappear, and we're creating a true talking head now. I'm just going to bring this back a little bit, and I'm going to give it a more contrasting background color just so you can see. I'm just going to take that and make that a plain yellow because yellow isn't in my color at all. I'm just going to keep bringing this up. And you can see once we hit that 30 mark, we're doing really good. And if we go higher, we're losing too much. So I'm just going to bring this back to about 30. And I typically leave my softness around 10. Again, that gives you a little bit of the edging of the softness. You can also change your hue just going to show you what happens. I have to go quite extreme, so I'm going to pull that all the way over, and you can see I'm turning quite pink, which is not something I'm looking for. And there's also something called defringe, and again, I'm going to show you how that looks when I bring this to an extreme, which is not what we're using in the end, but just so you can see. And you can see my color is disappearing if I bring it this way, and my color is also disappearing into white as I'm moving very far this way. I typically, depending on how the light falls in with my lighting setup and my natural light, I bring it around plus or minus 10 to 15. And I found with the clips I've been doing for this course, around the 14 mark gives me a really good number. And as we zoom in now, I'm just going to go to 100%, and I'm just going to move this a little bit. You can see now that around my hair, which is my worst area to show some green, it's almost gone. Let me just bring this defringing back to 0. And you can see, I'm just going to take this back a little bit as well. And you can see that I have this slight green shadowing happening around me here. So I'm just going to bring this back up. This is what you're looking for, is just that shadowing. Just bringing the tolerance up to 30. I still have a little halo right here, and bringing my defringing up to about 13 to 14. You can see I'm going towards the black and white image version of me, and it's just enough to fool the eye to say that this is gone. I'm just going to take this back to shrink to fit, and you can see it's a very, very cleanly cut out image of myself now on a background. In this case, it's obviously not the background we want to use. I'm just going to go back to the black, which is not my final background, but in the next lecture, I'm going to show you how you can add another background to this and make it work quite well for you.